So sitting here with my sisters and we were talking. I was talking to someone, a young lady, and she is around 13 years old. And this young lady's been in church her entire life, but she's really unclear about a lot of things, you know. Um, and we are just talking about how do you produce that? How is that being produced in the churches nowadays? Because even as adults, I see so many adults that grow up and they're just religious minded. You know, they can go to church, and the church will be a permanent fixture in their life that they would do religiously, but outside of church, they have very little direction. They have very little understanding of what the Word of God says. Very little understanding of everything. And one of the things that came up is the fact of school. And now, both of my sisters homeschool, and it has become a lifestyle practice to intermingle our faith with our schoolwork and with our everyday and with everyday things. And I'm quite sure you can hear the kids in the background now because they're a part of this, and so they're hearing this as well. But this has become a lifestyle more than just a ritual or something to do on a Sunday or a Tuesday or a Saturday or whatever day that anyone worships on. But so my sister said something interesting, and I wanted her to just say that real quick on this recording.
What I was talking about was, I think one of the biggest things that causes unsurety in a lot of kids that attend school is that if you had to measure time on weights, if you really look at it, they're in school 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, whereas they're going to church maybe 2 to 3 times a week for a couple hours. And the church time that they have on a weekly basis wouldn't even equal up to one day at school. So the school influence is going to weigh way heavier in their life and in their lifestyles than the church message if they're only getting it for those couple of days a week. So the big thing is what they're getting at school is lifestyle differences about different religions, um, different moral things. So they're getting that more than they're getting the true faith and the true word. And I think that's where the discourse comes in. I think that's where the confusion comes in for kids. It's because it's just outweighed in their households, outweighed in their lifestyle.
Yeah, but and I found that very true. And one of the things is not that we're trying to that you're trying to say, hey, increase the church hours because that's not what the whole thing here is. But the main focus is but to make Christ a permanent fixture in their lives. Oftentimes what you see is that if you get into that routine of going on a certain day, that day becomes the day that your kids even programmed are to perform on. And we weren't called to be performers, just to that's what we call in the hood or in a world is being fake or fronting. You know what I mean? And so, what we see today is we see a lot of front and we see a lot of Sunday believers or Saturday believers or just religious people, and that's not what this is calling for. And so when I look at them and doing this from a homeschool standpoint, I see that the children are learning to connect with God on every aspect. And so at school, it's void from school. It's void from that because you can't even mention God at school. You can't even pray at school. As a children book writer, every time you go in to try to publish a book, they're always going to say that you can't have you can't even mention God in it. You can't even mention the name in it. So that's what the children are being programmed to, and that would explain a lot of it. But we just find this all across the board. When you go to college, now that's when the anti-God comes. You talk teaching about evolution, and you're looked at as being crazy for thinking like this, because the young lady was talking about agnostic versus atheist. Because she has a friend that is that, and she don't know how to deal with that. As a young Christian girl, she hasn't really where pretty much the church has failed to failed us really getting in front of these kind of issues, and I think that really ties back into, like you
You
just
don't
said,
even know if it's right or wrong.
right? Don't even know if it's
Her
right or wrong.
question was it even right or wrong to be agnostic or atheist? So
Right,
that's a clear ideal that there was a breakdown of communication and a breakdown of faith
right,
in her life somewhere
yeah.
for her not to be able to stand strong and stand up for what she believed because she didn't even know
She
what
didn't even
she
know.
believed.
Yeah, right, right. Yep.
And so that's why my thought was, where is she getting the unbelief from? And I just had to think, like, if she was raised like that, her home is like that, then she's getting the unbelief from some outside sources. And then the question is also, how do you, even when you send your kids to school, because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to homeschool, how do you still implement that faith? And I think it's by you being a living example.
Absolutely.
You have to be a living example. It can't just be like you said, going to church on those 3 days a week. You have to be a living example. Um, Bible study, quote unquote, Bible study has to be a lifestyle in y'all lives.
Yeah.
The word has to come alive in your life, because the children will follow you. No matter how old they are, I feel
Yeah.
like they're going to follow their
It
parents.
will. Yeah.
Even if they have outside influences of
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about that. Even because a lot of people say, well, I can't homeschool. What can I do? And it's, you have to live that word that you want your kids to know. You to
Yeah.
have that faith, you have to live it yourself. you
Yeah,
know
I mean, I think that's detrimental. You have to be the light. You have to be the example. And the minute that you start deviating from those things, your kids notice. Remember, they used to say, "Do as I." My mama used to say, "Do as I say, not as I do." You know what I mean? And I grew up, doing everything that she did. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that that's important. And when it comes to religious people, and when you see that breakdown of their kids being hellions out in the world, it's a lot of times because the parents are living double standards. I don't think that that's in every case. You know what I mean? But um, double standards will kill us. And one thing I feel like, if you're a young mother or a young father or anything, and you're wondering, where these things coming from, you have to understand that everything around your children are suggesting antichrist. The music, the TV shows. You let your kids look at Nickelodeon and Disney, and they talking about boyfriends and wanting to kiss and all those different things. You know what I mean? Like those things are teaching you. Those things are teaching your kids something. Those things are teaching your kids something opposite of what you're trying to instill in them. You know what I mean? I mean, all of the music that the kids are listening to, me working at school, these kids are singing songs from people who 30 years old, 40 years old. What Beyonce and Jay-Z is 40 in their 40s.
Yeah.
And they know so crazy in love and all these different songs. Like what is this? Chris Brown, they doing Chris Brown moves, and Chris Brown is an adult that can make his own decisions and do much stuff that he want with women and stuff, and these the young boys are singing that.
I mean, oh, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. You gotta look at like the track record and stuff, and you also gotta look at like conversations can be so simple. It didn't take a rocket scientist for you to open up a conversation with the little girl, but
how often do people genuinely ask kids questions? They tell a kid to stay in a kid's place. So if
That's
you're
true.
not asking me my opinion, how can I be open to,
Right.
asking the questions
Yeah.
even about my faith? Is it really my faith or is it my
My
parents'
mom's
faith?
favorite, yeah. Yeah.
So if you don't ask them certain questions or if you don't allow time to talk with them, then they won't ever really have their own faith. They'll have examples of what their mom did or
Hmm.
their grandma did, and God can be very powerful in their life. They can stay up all night and pray. They
Right.
will never know because they're sleeping for school. Stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like these are like subtle attacks
Yeah.
that you won't know unless you just your parent explain their faith to you.
I mean, I completely agree with that, and that's one of the things that we had to tell her is, look, is we're not, is no right or wrong answer here. Don't just try to give me the answer that you think that I want to hear. You know what I mean? I want to know how you feel. I want to know what your feelings are on these subjects, because is this is not this performance. I want to know how what's your take on this. And then when she told me to take, I didn't scold her for that. You know what I mean? I just explained to her, look, if you believe this way, this is what you believe. This is what the scriptures say about that. If you believe this way, this
Right.
you know what I mean? This this
Right.
this from a healthy understanding place, exactly what you said. We got to start talking to them, and getting the idea of how they believe, and not
Yeah.
just you know assuming.
Yeah.
You know.
I feel like to go to what you were saying about the music and the things that we put in front of our kids and stuff. I feel like we also gotta like take a look at. I mean, a lot has changed as far as the music industry, but a lot has really stayed the same. And if you think about when we was teenagers, it was a lot of music that was around back then that we shouldn't probably had listened to. And where did it get us? You know what I mean?
I
It
know it
got us
got
to
me.
doing things contrary to what we would should have been doing.
Right.
I remember SWV had that song "Weak." I get so weak in the knees. All the kids were singing that.
Yeah.
All the kids were singing that and shouldn't have been singing that. We was in junior high. And that was everybody's jam
In junior high.
in junior high. And now as I'm older and I really break down, like you can look at that song and what it was really talking about, it was so many sexual innuendos
Yeah.
in that song. We was bringing on all of that over us,
Right.
singing it over and over. So these things have not, like the music has not really changed too much,
Well, they've gotten
but
worse, more
it has even
explicit.
gotten worse. Exactly. But so you got to understand what's coming over your kids is the same thing that was trying to come over you.
Yeah.
And quit trying to be like, oh, just let them do it. Because where did that get you? You know what I'm saying? I can tell you.
Yeah, and then when you do have faith, you gotta realize that certain things that we say is out of our mouth is blessings or curses. You're either gonna bless somebody with what you say and what you do, or you're gonna curse them. And I don't know why people don't believe that's the same thing
They
for
don't.
themselves.
Yeah.
If
Right.
I sing this music over me, I'm inviting the same
Exactly.
problems. That's why
Exactly.
we associate so well with music. We
Right.
can find one about any way that we're
Exactly.
feeling. So if I'm sad, I'm gonna turn on some sad music. If I'm happy, I'm gonna turn on some happy music. But like that's not. That's why God said that songs are gonna have to come out of your spirit because the spirit that's behind these songs you won't find out until it's overtaking you, and then you're like, man, this music is crazy. Why am I feeling like this? Like
Yep.
it shouldn't be gospel music with a hip hop rap beat. You know what I mean? Like it got to be a separation between if you're gonna be holy for Christ or if you're gonna be you can't be double minded. You can't
Yeah.
be having double
I
standards
agree.
for you or your kids.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And we've always had these conversations because music has been such a huge part of all of our lives, And I mean, that's the universal language music is, and so that is a big. That's one of the biggest things that's going on, um, as far as influencing our children today. And as you said, I mean, the music has gotten so much worse, so much more explicit, and we just gotta do our part. But I wanted to talk about this because it's definitely a breakdown in today's quote unquote Christian or today's believer compared to what we see that the scriptures say that it should be, and so as I said, you guys hear the kids in the background. We're gonna cut this short, but hey, you have anything to say, brother? You got any input?
Did you say Nickelodeon?
Nickelodeon. Oh, I did say Nickelodeon. See, and you see that's the thing. Kids pick up things all the time. You know what I mean? He done picked up Nickelodeon off of this. That's all you got from that.
You only watch Nickelodeon.
What about Christ? What about Jesus? You got anything to say about him?
Well, yeah, but sometimes we watch good things like Nickelodeon.
You don't even watch Nickelodeon, so what are you talking about?
We always will be watching Nickelodeon. It got good movies.
You don't even have cable, so what are you talking about? But all right, y'all. You see how it is. They can be so influenced just from you talking about something. So you got to be very careful about what you say around your kids. That's 4 years old. Tayan, you have said it. You got anything to say? What'd you say about Jonah?
Well, I got it.
Why y'all
Jonah was a prophet.
What about it?
Well, he was the person, Hebrew.
Just because I got the phone out, you don't have to be shy to talk.
He was a Hebrew.
He was a Hebrew, and what else?
He lives in a land called Israel.
Israel, and what else?
And God told Jonah to go to Nineveh.
Nineveh. Did he want to go to Nineveh?
Nope.
Why not?
Because he would have got to punish them.
He was mad. He didn't think that they should have God's grace. He wanted them to be punished. So what did God do to him?
He's gonna destroy Nineveh.
What did he do since he disobeyed? What did he do to Jonah?
He swallowed him in a big fish.
He got swallowed up in a big fish. Yeah. And so yeah, brother.
And then he was in the fish for 3 days and 3 nights, and the fish can spit him out. And fish can't even spit.
So he was in there for 3 days. This kind of like Jesus was in a tomb for 3 days, huh?
No. Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I appreciate you.